Good. Here we go. Syncity. You're now at the Syncity last and final conference, actually. Syncity is a project that is ending very soon. We have done 3 years of participatory research and action in Cureghem in Brussels, on the one hand. So that was our very specific place to work in and collect experiences and test a few methods and so on. And at the same time, we've been trying to frame it on a larger level to see what kind of results we can also use for other places. We were 8 partners, we still are 8 partners from Austria and Belgium. It's a collaboration project between the 2 countries. And our main question was, how can we make urban planning more sustainability driven, at the same time more stakeholder inclusive and participatory? So somehow this project was trying to bring together these 2 aspects, or these 2 challenges into a set of different actions that we tried in Cureghem in Brussels. And that actually brought us to a place where we developed a practical approach, moving from theory to practice, with a kind of toolbox for practically everyone who wants to help shape cities that are more ecologically oriented and more sustainability driven, and at the same time more just, or let's say more driven by the idea that every citizen has the right to participate in a city's development in the same way. So our approach to participation was very much driven by this idea of a just city, just and green. Let's say it in a simplified manner. And before we go into the detail of what was the approach that we chose specifically with Syncity, we would like to make a very short, quick poll with all of you to understand your own approaches to participation in urban planning and urban transformation. So we'll do a quick poll and I hand over to Stefan to guide you through. Stefan, please.
Yes, so as you can see, there is a QR code underneath the picture on the right-hand side of the slide. If you would be so kind to actually scan that QR code, because after that there will be a window opening on your phone where you only need to type in the answers to the question that is posed in that window. And then we will share the screen of the poll, and then we can all see what answers each one of you gave. Also, please only answer in 2 words if possible, because otherwise the poll will look a bit messy and be hard to decipher. I will also post a link to the poll into the chat, because if you're don't have your phone on you, or you're using your computer and prefer that, you can just join the poll through the link. Okay? Should be up now.
All right, thank you very much. As you can see here, there is already quite a lot of different approaches to participation. The word cloud shows us also words that have been there more often. So interesting enough, communication is right at the center of participation, but then we also have other mentions such as local knowledge, clear objectives, financing, time and money. Small steps is another input. Thank you. Accessibility, coordination, sincere commitment, freedom. It's also is also mentioned here. Inclusion, multi-perspectives and time, engagement, sensibility. I see on the left-hand side some small violet part. It says ownership. Which is also something that we have been dealing with quite a lot in Syncity. Thank you very much. We will come back to this word cloud at the end of the session. Stefan, please bring us back to the Zoom presentation. So now we already see a little bit what you think. And now I would like to hand over to my colleague Christian, our colleague and friend Christian Dessourou, from Université Libre de Bruxelles to go a little bit into the details of what we tried, what was our approach to participation, and how did we try to bring it to life in this very specific, sensitive setting of Cureghem in Brussels, Belgium. Christian, please, you have the word.
Thank you. So hello everyone, and many thanks Ina for these introductory words. So I'm Christian Dessourou, as Ina told you. I'm a geographer and part of the research team that worked in Brussels. So the Syncity project focused on participatory methods in the context of urban transformation processes, as Ina said. But our aim was not to simply apply various participatory techniques in order to evaluate their usefulness. That would not be very innovative. Citizen participation is well established in public action and policy for some time now. And many forms of institutional participation are now used in the context of urban development plans, in building permits, and so on. So why did Syncity work on this topic of participation? Well, first of all, we believe that established conventional methods of participation do not really or not always practice what they preach. Even though there is a lot of enthusiasm that participation has triggered forms of empowerment at the local level, there are many voices that show that participation very often reproduces inequalities in terms of who raises their voices and who shares their opinions. So in many situations, the diversity of participating groups is quite low. Certain parts of the population, it's typically young people, the working class, or recent immigrants, are least represented. And citizen participation thus often takes place in quite closed circles. And the term citizen participation also brings to mind a certain kind of quite structured top-down exchange between officials and citizens. The information meetings, roundtables, and even collective workshops generally give little chance to really influence decision-making or the urban design process. And all this can lead to a kind of participation fatigue due to unmet expectations or empty promises. All this said, we're not pretending that everything is going wrong. Nowadays, many residents and other stakeholders are getting organized at an early stage in urban development projects in order to have a real impact on the improvement of their daily environment. And on the part of public authorities, there's a growing awareness that the spaces of our daily lives must be a product of cooperation between the different actors using and sharing them. So if we are considering this context, Syncity project is an attempt not at all to reinvent citizen participation or to simply criticize conventional practices, but to somehow expand the space of possibilities and experiment with forms and methods of participation that are more cooperative, more bottom-up, and allow a large number of population groups to contribute their opinion, their views on a particular issue or project. But how shall we do participation then? How to allow the full expression of these diverse points of view? And Stefan, the next slide, please. For that. Well, this is a very broad question, and I would like to bring it down to a more specific context in which we have been working, the neighborhood of Cureghem. Cureghem is a part of the municipality of Anderlecht. Brussels has 19 municipalities, and one of these municipalities is Anderlecht, and Cureghem is part of this municipality, and is located southwest of the center of Brussels. Cureghem is what is commonly referred to as a working class or immigrant neighborhood. So next slide, please. And this obviously brings to mind issues such as social precarity, high unemployment, and poor housing conditions. But Cureghem also holds a number of undeniable qualities and resources for those who are already living and working in this neighborhood, but also for newcomers. So it's known as being a welcoming place and a gateway for generations of migrant populations, and especially from poorer countries. You're certainly familiar with this type of urban reality, so I will not go into this right here. For the Syncity team, there's another aspect that was equally important, precisely the issue of citizen representation. Or in other words, the involvement of citizens in discussions and decisions related to urban design and planning. And this is a very relevant issue, especially in a mixed and multicultural neighborhood like Cureghem. There is not only the considerable weight of language barriers, and I mean the spoken language, as well as the technical language of urban planning. So there's not just these language barriers, but also the difficulties that can be felt when faced with the formalism of certain participatory practices. So the obstacles of a broad and mixed participation of the local population are therefore manifold. It was therefore very important for us, the Syncity team, to focus on this issue of citizen representation in this specific context. So to make visible and audible a public that is not necessarily used to expressing itself on the public stage or in more institutional participation or information sessions. So it was important for us to offer this population more intimate, more suitable settings for participation. Settings which are more likely to allow them to express themselves, to discuss and to share their points of view. Next slide, please. Before we move on to our case studies, I will show you how we have put these principles of action into practice. I'll give you an overview of how we proceeded and what makes our approach quite distinctive. Usually, participatory processes are initiated when a project manager or a public authority wishes to carry out a specific development or project. And Syncyti's choice was not just to observe participatory processes already underway in such projects, but to initiate them in the framework of carefully chosen case studies. It was clear for us from the start that the scale of our work could not be the whole of the Cureghem district, but rather exemplary places. And the starting point for identifying these case study locations was to what we called listen to the local residents, the shopkeepers, the municipal authorities, local economic actors, and to observe the urban space in action. We therefore had many meetings and interviews, exploratory walks and discussions during the first months of the research project in 2019. And after this preliminary fieldwork, we were able to identify a series of recurring concerns and topics in the narratives, in the statements that we collected. And we were also able to identify a series of places where these issues are most visible. And among all the places that came up, we selected finally only 3 specific places. And I will present you these places in a few moments. So once we had defined our case studies, found our 3 places, we began to identify more precisely the stakeholder groups likely to be affected or concerned by the problem in this specific location. The participatory methods that we used were selected, tested, and adapted while taking into account the specific context in which we were and the variety and nature of the stakeholder groups that were involved. All in all, the main objective was to, of course, to involve all of them so that the different population groups and stakeholders became real actors or contributors to the improvement of their living environment. And one could even say that they became real effective partners in our project. And there's a last point, sorry, too fast. There's just last point, which is our approach. So to add that our approach is deliberately exploratory. It's even meant to be experimental. So we test, we try, we reject, we invent new things, and we deliberately use the term urban laboratory or urban lab to designate 3 urban sites where we carried out our activities. So these urban labs are circumscribed places within which we worked and experimented. And being exploratory also means that we were open to less conventional and more alternative ways of participation. So we had a role-playing board game, workshops, photo interviews, co-design workshops, and so on. And now, the next slide, please, Stefan. But why did we work on different sites? Well, it's quite easy. The aim was to have a variety of case studies. Each of these case studies focused on a specific issue or problem. Each case study involved a different constellation. Each case study had different participatory techniques. I will present you all of these 3 case studies in a few words. Well, I mean, a few words in a few minutes. So it's the work of 1.5 years field work. So I will try to sum all this up in just a few minutes, and by presenting you each of the cases, which helps you to really see what these places look like, and what were the topics we were working on. So next slide, please. First of all, we have the Chaussée de Mons. Chaussée de Mons is one of the main shopping streets in the district, which has been experiencing a certain revival in recent years, thanks to the arrival of migrant communities from Eastern Europe, from Africa, and especially from Syria, which opens numerous shops, snacks, and restaurants in the area. But the street section also has a serious problem of uncleanliness linked to an excessive accumulation of household and commercial waste. The problem is well known, but there is no change of the situation inside for the moment. So next slide, please. And our intervention was meant to initiate a general discussion on this issue and to bring together all the stakeholders concerned by the production, by the collection and sorting of waste in order to find a solution to the problem together. And after a number of street surveys, interviews with the shop owners, where we organized a broader workshop with the participation of these shop owners and other economic actors, but also representatives of the public cleaning services and members of the Anderlecht City Council. So we had a large group of participants, and we had this occasion of sharing and exchanging on this quite complex topic. And the Syncity team was present as facilitators, as interpreters, because the translating is very important. And we were receivers somehow of the expectations and the ideas of the different parties which were present in order to structure these ideas in the form of possible waste management scenarios. Andrea and Elodie, colleagues of mine, will give you more detailed overview later on this in one of the breakout rooms. Next slide, please. So now, maybe we'll switch. So let's go to the Meersman side first. I think it's, yeah, perfect. The Meersman Road is a road section which is in front of a church. And this street section has been redesigned 8 years ago in order to close it to traffic and to make it more attractive. One end, you can see on the picture, of the street has been closed with fixed bollards, and the other end was equipped with retractable bollards. Since the latter were never put into operation, so these retractable bollards weren't functioning, the space was quickly taken over by cars that used it as a car park to shop or to eat in the surroundings. So a certain redesign of the space has taken place. There was a transformation of the space, but it is found completely unsatisfactory by the vast majority of the users of the space, as we learned during our interviews and observations on site. So in this case, Syncity's aim was to improve the situation by asking the different groups of stakeholders what they think about the use of the space as a wild car park and how they see the future of this place. Next slide, please. So we held a number of participatory map workshops. We made some on-field observations and discussions took place. We even created a scale model of the street, so to engage people in discussing on how to redesign this place. And we organized a public workshop in autumn 2020 on site. And on this occasion, during this workshop, or for this workshop, traffic barriers were installed by the municipality so to prevent cars from parking during our workshop. Also, great surprise, these barriers were not removed the day after. They were even replaced by, a few days later by fixed street furniture. You can see it on the picture on the right. So to prevent cars from parking permanently. This was done to the great satisfaction of the people living around this newly created square. So somehow we succeeded in changing something, but we do not pretend to say that we have influenced or even accelerated this process of transforming the road into a pedestrian zone. But it's just, maybe it's just a coincidence, temporal coincidence. But it is quite possible that the multiple exchanges that we had with the people who used the place have at least ensured that the changes have been received rather approvingly by these people, and probably in the belief that the dialogue we initiated has produced a positive result on the space, which is quite interesting. So even if we're not sure if we somehow changed something, maybe it's talking about it helped accepting the changes and welcoming it even more. So now we have to come back to the abattoir side, the last one that I will present you. So in the abattoir side, it's quite a different situation again. The space we worked on is the vast open space which is located on this abattoir site. So the gray surfaces you can see on the pictures. So this very vast site hosts a slaughterhouse that is still in operation, but also a number of other activities. There are meat wholesalers, there's a weekly market, a very important one. There's an urban farm, mushroom and herb producers, and an association that organizes recreational, cultural and social activities on the site. At the same time, it is a site which is in the process of transformation. A number of private and public development projects are in the making for the moment. And all in all, this generates some possible disharmonies or inconsistencies in terms of the uses that can be made of the site in the future. So the existing economic and productive activities, and there are a lot of them, will potentially have difficulty in coexisting with this desire to leave more space for the recreational, residential, or other functions of the site. Next slide, please. So in order to make the project leaders aware of these possible conflicts or tensions, but also to inform the current users of the site of the projects that will come, we planned a number of activities meant to put these two perceptions or two site-related knowledges face to face. So we had on the one side the expert knowledge of the urban designers, of the planners and decision makers, and we have on the other side the practical and day-to-day knowledge of those who work on the site, who use it and move around it. So the important thing for us was to show the experts that the site is not just a vast open space, open to any kind of redevelopment, and to give a voice to those people working on site and remaining invisible most of the time. And Basil and Richard will give you some further details on this topic in one of the breakout rooms later on. So, and I think I have said enough now, and I hope that I have given you a somewhat comprehensive overview of the work we have been doing in Cureghem since 2019. These case studies were obviously not an end in themselves. Based on the lessons that we learned from field experiences, we have developed more general guidelines for inclusive, sensitive, context-related, and sustainability-oriented citizen. All this material was structured and conceptualized in what we called the toolbox and the handbook. I will now hand over to Ina and then afterwards to Richard to talk you in more detail about this topic of sustainability and on the toolbox. Thank you all.
Hey, merci, Christian. Thank you very much. I would like to welcome all the participants who joined us now in the last 15 minutes. I would like to tell you that we do have in this very meeting colleagues from Cairo. We have people from Romania. We have colleagues joining from China. We have colleagues from Hungary, Belgium, and the US. I very much welcome all of you to our session today, and I'm very happy that we have such an amazing audience. Also a warm welcome, of course, to all the Syncity partners themselves and our great colleague Richard S. Levine, who joins us from the US today, who was also part who worked partly for this question of sustainability and had a very special role. Hello, welcome, Dick. Welcome to the US and all the other countries joining. Merci, Christian. It is very difficult, of course, to sum up the results of a 3 years process. Thank you, nevertheless, for letting us travel a little bit into the 3 sites that we've been working on. I also want to, in this very moment, say hello and welcome very warmly Beata Bibrovska from the Belgian funding agency Innoviris. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here, and we're happy that you're interested in the results of our project. I also want to welcome the colleagues from the FFG, the Austrian funding agencies, because these are the 2 funding bodies who helped us do this work and who obviously are very important in this kind of projects. Since this was not a market-oriented project in itself, but it started really as an experimental and open approach, which is rather difficult to finance also. So thank you very much for this trust in such an open approach. Now coming from participation, from our approach to participation to our approach to combining this idea of participation with sustainability. As you can imagine, working in Cureghem poses a lot of discussions in such a place like Cureghem, very precarious. Christian mentioned that many people in Cureghem have a difficult living condition in many different points of view, from unemployment to very poor housing conditions to a lot of other difficulties and challenges that they face. Many people with a migrant background being in the European capital do not have such an easy life in this place. How can you talk about sustainability in such a place, and what kind of debate can we initiate it all in such a place related to sustainability? This, I think, is a huge question for many places in the world, not only in Europe, because the question is always, how can we break sustainability down from an elitarian discourse of people who know how to do it better and so on? How can we break it down to another kind of level of communication? And how can we discuss matters of sustainability at all in a place like Cureghem with the local residents, for example? In the Syncity project, this was a huge debate also amongst the project team, of course. And at some point, we started to move between theory and practice and started to experiment with this idea of taking policy frameworks related to sustainability, such as the Sustainable Development Goals, but also the Green Deal and things like that, and how to connect them to our own experiences with working with real people, with residents in a place like Cureghem. And we asked ourselves, what does a project that wants to deal with participation and sustainability, what would be issues or fields to consider and to think about if you want to raise a debate in a meaningful way? And we came up as a team with 8 criteria or 8, let's say, fields or aims or goals that urban projects could or should, from our point of view, take into account, especially when they work in the rival areas or disadvantaged neighborhoods. We developed these 8 criteria. We discussed them quite a lot. It was quite an intense process. We then came up with 8 criteria, and then we asked ourselves, how can we measure them, or how can we reflect on these criteria? We developed a questionnaire that has 3 criteria, three questions, sorry, for each of the 8. And then we developed a very simple tool that produces an automatic visual representation of the answers. Stefan, please, next slide. Here you see the 8 criteria that we came up with, starting with A, but it doesn't have it's not like just in order of appearance. It has no meaning, this order. So we started with something like the right format for participation. From that is more a methodological question, to the question of appropriate language, both in terms of technical language or avoiding technical language, up to the point of having translators involved into projects that meet them and so on. Interconnected stakeholders, awareness of ecological improvement, empowerment of vulnerable groups, spatial justice, cultural diversity, and improved social cohesion. As you can see, these 8 criteria go far beyond, let's say, the classical ecological approach to sustainability or also in urban transformation. For us, moving beyond and trying to integrate these different aspects was very important. For example, in point F, if you look at spatial justice, we do believe that a sustainable urban transformation must take into account issues of gentrification and so on. I would like to give you one example related to point C, interconnected stakeholders. What could that mean? Sounds great, doesn't it? But how to do it? Sure, it's good to connect your stakeholders, but how to do it? So then we try to break it down into actions, let's say. Here you have an example on the left-hand side. For example, have public activities and events where you explicitly aim at exchange of different groups of people, such as the example that Christian showed us with the abattoir site, where we brought together urban planning experts, also from the municipality, together with meat workers who are actually working on site. If you remember now the picture with the guy in the white coat, that's one of the meat workers working on the slaughterhouse, and making the meat really made a difference. It created a new field of communication. Refer to the participants' fields of experience to understand areas of conflict or areas in need of transformation. So if you bring different stakeholders together, it usually creates a more integrated knowledge on what area you should focus on. An idea to discuss participation tools together with stakeholders and not just come in with your tools and make sure that they're used, but also be ready to put yourself in question and try to use tools that bring stakeholders together. And the last point here, explain and clarify decision-making processes and chains of responsibility in urban planning, because that is a knowledge that is very often not there, depending on with whom you're working, of course, but with the residents in Cureghem, that's a tricky issue. And only if people understand on all sides how the process works can they start to communicate with each other in some way. Okay, so we have one aim, interconnected stakeholders, but now what do we do with this aim? So we developed 3 basic questions in a questionnaire that kind of very simple, really breaks down these ideas. For example, did you hold meetings where different or all relevant stakeholders were involved, if you think of your own project? Did you develop specific participation tools together, or did you just come in with your own tools? Did you explain the complexity of decision-making processes in the setting where these people are? This is just an example for this kind of self-check that we developed. Next slide, please. Thanks. So in fact, if you fill in this questionnaire and you fill in all these questions, let's say in the middle of a project that you're running, it shows you something automatically. It creates a net diagram, as you can see it here. This is an example from one of our own workshops, because we call it a self-reflection tool. Here you can see, for example, if you look at point B, okay, obviously our team thought that, yes, we were putting a lot of effort into finding the appropriate language for our setting. But let's say spatial justice issues, if you look at point F, has not been touched very much yet at that point of time. It just shows you our own reflection process on where our own project was about to go, or was standing at the very moment when we made this reflection workshop using the tool. And now we would like to try that with you all together for a moment. It only takes a few minutes. We would like you to think of your own projects. Or projects that you know. If you're running your own projects in that sense, if you're yourself involved into urban transformation in some way, please take a moment to reflect. What is your own strength in your own projects, and where would you actually like to improve, or where do you see, like, let's say there is some space where you could still get better, or maybe put a focus on in your next project maybe, or in the one you're still doing. And I hand over to Stefan to tell us how to use this.
All right. So in order to do this, I would like you to comment on this slide. And the slide itself can be commented on if you go up to the green bar, and on the right-hand side of that bar should be like little window which says options, and there under comments you can basically pick a stamp and then place it anywhere on this net diagram. It'd be great if you could use a star, so we have like a uniform homogeneous picture, and maybe a question mark for the negative ones. All right.
Excuse me?
Yes, please.
Can you please explain again how to add on the slide,
of course.
please?
So at the top part of the screen, like the very top, you see this little green bar, right?
Yes.
Yes. And on the right-hand side, there should be an options like button, correct?
Yes.
And if you click on that options button, you should be able to like select the comment section. Like, but
it actually says annotate.
oh,
Oh,
what does it say?
Annotate.
Annotate. Oh, I'm sorry.
yes, I can do it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Okay, thank you very much. You can add a little more if you like. Oh no, you can. Sorry, we are saving this. So did you make a screenshot, Stefan? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us this moment of reflection. We really created this tool, and you can use it too. In a more, the real tool, let's say, the one that really creates this diagram that I showed you before, is a little present from the Syncity team to the world. We would be very happy if you find it inspiring. If you want to look at it in detail, you can all access it, and in detail the questionnaires, the criteria, because of course each criteria is described in more detail in our tool. And you can use this net diagram very simply. It's a very simple Excel sheet, and it creates the diagram itself. So for group workshops in your own teams, for example, or if you have a project and you want to do a self-reflection on where are you standing, where do you want to go, are there fields that you completely ignored and that you would like to, let's say, that where you would like to improve, or do you have parts where you can really say, yes, this is fine, I'm on the right pathway. So this is just one of several tools that we developed in the project, and that just shows our own reflection process, basically, that we went through in the last 3 years. Stefan, next slide, please. And so from there, I would like to hand over to my colleague Richard. Oh, sorry, I'm still making some question marks into the slides. It was not done on purpose. Richard, please take over. The floor is yours. This is our last short presentation on the question of how can we go now from Cureghem to, can we go from Cureghem to everywhere with some of the ideas that we developed? And how can we do that? How can we like share our learnings with other cities in the world? Richard, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Ina, and welcome from my part. I'm talking now a little bit about generalizability, but also about the toolbox as one result of our 2.5 years engagement with Cureghem. And first of all, I want to introduce to you to a concept that I think helps to think a little bit beyond the particular cases that we already discussed, and also to find points of convergence from between all the practical aspects, our ambitions, our wanted impact, and the actual process where we can organize our work. So Cureghem can be translated or conceptualized as an arrival area. I don't know if all of you know that concept. It's urban sociology and human geography kind of concept. So I just briefly point out the characteristics that are discussed as arrival areas. So first of all, it's an area for new migrants, for newcomers. There's a high degree of diversity, and there's ethnicity-based resources for newcomers that actually that generate the capacities for newcomers to connect to the city. First, to the immediate urban context, of course, but then beyond, as an arrival area is not meant to be something very containerish or very closed. So high cultural social diversity, often disadvantaged neighborhoods, of course. We're not talking about, for example, in the Brussels case, of the other parts of Brussels that are very wealthy and affluent. We are talking to a working class neighborhood that was linked to important industries. So in Syncity, we already had this idea of having multiple sites, not only choose one site and really work on it and put all the energy in it, but try to get a broader picture, and so we're very close to maybe a multiple case study method. In effect, we had one case, which was the abattoir, that was more known to us from the very beginning, but as Christian said, other cases were not, and we were exploring and trying to get our own picture. Next slide, please. So the toolbox, well, this is it. It's in front of you as well. It's really comes straight out of the printing. It's fresh, and it basically tries to share all our learnings from this engagement with Cureghem and beyond with you. It has 3 elements. So first of all, there's the handbook, which has about 170 pages. That discusses different kind of things that were important, like, for example, already mentioned gamification, how to use digital apps, but also new tools for stakeholder engagement. And we also discuss life cycle assessment, how to keep track of, and how to also have the ecological dimensions in the process, and not external to it, and make that part of the overall endeavor. So this handbook is also a good access to the method cards and to the tools, the digital tools that we provide on the USB stick. The USB stick is hard to see, but it's on the green card on the top picture. And here you can find applicable digital tools, anything from an internet blog to how to set up your own project. It's meant for whom? Well, we had in mind what we call urban practitioners, which means basically planners, architects, civil society agents, maybe public planning departments that are looking for new ways to have participatory urban planning projects within their own work, basically. And so we already saw, for example, the tool that Ina presented. So it's sustainability-oriented tools, but also tools that focus on, as I said, stakeholder management and assessment, and also monitoring. It's so developed in Cureghem, but we would like to say that as we had this opportunity to work on different locations, we would at least allow ourselves to extend it to other arrival areas. And if you consider the process itself, to which I will come immediately in the next slide, we might say that it might be adaptable to other situations as well. Next slide, please. So this is, don't be shocked. It's not that complicated as it looks. Actually, the handbook that is provided with the toolbox guides you through all of this and points out the focuses of each of the phases. But in general, it's conceptualized in 4 phases, of which one is kind of running parallel. I should say this is ideal typic. It doesn't mean that you start from the one and then you go through it in a strict chronological order. It's in reality, things are a little bit more messier. However, in case you might not be able to do a full-blown Syncity process, it might very well be inspirational to you as you might rediscover issues that we've faced and where we try to work ourselves through in the particular phases that are displayed here. Just to quickly go through it, of course, everything begins with a project definition, but also with some, we might say, interdisciplinary research about either the site that's at hand or the thematic that you would like to work on. Syncity tries to connect to places, to sites. So it does not. It doesn't mean that. So we're always looking for some points of crystallization, I might say. So it then goes on into more transdisciplinary movement in phase 1, where we try to have this bottom-up perspective with, again, methods that are adaptive to the particular context and the stakeholders. So here again, also a lot of stakeholder work. Then it goes on to, and the project enlarges itself, it creates a public, it wants to generate outreach and share and spread information, which is 2A. And this is also, of course, interesting for the self-reflection tool to be carried out along that phase 2A. 2B is then we move towards collaboration. So we bring together different stakeholders in what we have described before as urban living labs. And now we want to generate scenarios with people, with stakeholders. And then these scenarios later on more and more go towards realization, which is of course the optimum. But it could also mean that scenarios are synthesis, co-designed solutions that could be transferred either to municipal government or other municipal public institutions, but could very well be planner, advocacy planning, in case you know further about that. So other maybe more civil society close agents. Last word on life cycle assessment. It's here, so the ecological assessment. You see, it's on 2 places. So methods are not strictly related to only one phase. It can reappear at a later point, maybe with different objectives behind. Next slide, please. So finally, why would you do all of that? As I said, you can also use our handbook and toolbox for getting inspired. But why would you do such a process? And here, I think it's fair to say that Syncity was trying to harness and to orient itself towards local initiatives, local and like collective spirit that we could engage with, a point that we will discuss later with my colleague Basil in the stakeholder breakout session. But again, these kind of planning endeavors, they are sensitive and maybe a little bit slower, but they reduce long-term costs, they strengthen social cohesion, and they will also generate what we call emotional co-ownership, which might be translated into being able to project oneself into the future and being part of a place in the future and care for that place. So, of course, such processes are collaborative, multi-stakeholder processes. They are creative. There's a lot of creativity in there. And especially for rival areas, it offers ways to support and work with people who who are often excluded from formal participation procedures, like in representative democracy. And yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Richard, for a quick overview on the toolbox and what it offers, and also on this question of arrival areas and what can we learn for supporting people and initiatives in arrival areas better than before. I would like to take in, if you do want to ask some questions, it would be a great moment because we have, we have a little time for it. If you want to ask something, you can just, I think, unmute yourself and go ahead, or you can put a question in the chat. Is there somebody who wants to discuss something right now? Then please either just unmute yourself and speak or put your question in the chat right away and we can answer it. Something urgent now?
Yes, here.
Yes, please.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for that at the moment. I wanted to ask, how did you reach all these people which are not so easy to be reached in Brussels, and you contact them, and yeah, how did that work out? But because I think that's not so easy.
I want to give one answer, which is time, and I would like to invite the other colleagues from Syncity to answer this question.
Thank you.
Well, I can begin giving my point of view on this, and probably I can complete my answer. Exactly, that's what Ina said. It's the time which you need to get familiar with the place, first of all, and then can familiar with what's happening in this area. So listen to the people you cross when you do some surveys or observations on site. So somehow, in particular in places like Cureghem, you easily get into contact with people. I mean, in the first contact, not necessarily directly, you cannot directly ask questions on specific topics. What you do is just be present, be perceived as someone interested in what's going on, and you get in the first contact, and then you have to reach some level of confidence, especially when it's related to people like shopkeepers in the street. And there's another element which is very important. In some cases, we were not the person who were directly in contact with some of our stakeholders, because we don't speak the same language quite easily. So it's extremely important to have someone who's translating with what other things. So I think it's very important to be regularly to be in the same place a number of times. So to get familiar with the place, get familiar with the people, and probably some other colleagues of mine would like to add something.
I can try to add something. I mean, to be quite honest and frank, it was not as if we were starting from scratch there. Of course, I can only add up to what Christian just explained, but among the consortium, among the partners of the project, there were people and institutions who were familiar with the quarter of Cureghem in Brussels. There were social workers among us, and there were people from the abattoir side with us who could ease the ways of finding contact to the local community. So it's not as if we were starting from scratch. I think this is worth mentioning here.
Thank you very much. We have a new question coming in from Vera Marin. Hi Vera, nice to see you. Vera is part of a project in the same JPI program, focusing on the role of university, in general of universities, for more collaboration with neighborhood communities. Hey Vera. And the question is about teaching content. Can Syncity deliver new teaching content, is what I understand from your question, Vera.
Any involvement of the students in relationship to the project, bringing both benefits to students in their learning process, but also to the local community and to the team that was implementing Syncity project.
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, there was a lot of student involvement, despite the difficult circumstances of the last year, which made it very complicated. But because the idea was actually to co-create, to co-construct also physical elements for the 3 sites. But Corona, of course, made this quite complicated because the coming together to construct things was quite impossible in the phase that was supposed to be there for the co-construction. Maybe Christian, would you like to say something on the Urban Innovation Week that Syncity developed?
Maybe Andrea, if you would like to. Otherwise, I will do it.
Andrea, please.
Because he's from the Faculty of Architecture, which is organizing this pedagogic SIP.
It's called Urban Innovation Week.
Urban Innovation Week.
Yeah. Andrea, would you like to answer?
No, I mean, I think it was a bit the same thing. We cannot experience a fully exchange with students due to the limitation for Corona. So it has been a pity. Maybe the former SIP, the first one of 2019, that Christian participated, it was more went more in this sense. I don't know, Christian.
So sorry, Christian.
Yeah, Ina, go on, please.
Maybe just to summarize it, there was a format developed by the colleagues of the universities that was called the Urban Innovation Week, where a lot of students participated in working on a specific site for a week, but also it was combined with a lot of lectures and debates and meetings with other people who brought in a lot of new input also for the students. And the first week, for example, was divided into one group that was researching the urban planning for a specific site, and one group that was researching for the local reality of the same site. And then in the end, there was a presentation that kind of confronted the 2 different approaches with each other in some way, which was very interesting, of course, because it was very different. And it tried to bridge the gap between these 2 different situations, the one of the urban planning department and the one of the real situation on location. And I'm sure that the colleagues from Belgium will be very happy to discuss with you more in detail on the student aspect. And actually, in the toolbox handbook that you find also online, there is a chapter on this Urban Innovation Week and how Syncity tried to develop new formats and how to work with students. Maybe that's interesting for you. Thank you. If there is, I would say we now do a very important thing, because we will have a bit more time for questions later. Please, the next slide, Stefan. Yes. We would like to have a 5 minutes break now. It's 12 minutes past 5, so it would be really great if we can meet again in 5 minutes, rather sharp. And then we're going to split up into our small breakout rooms and have time for more in-depth discussions on the different topics that you find interesting. Okay? So please be back in time, let's say at 20 past 5. Okay, so actually it's 8 minutes, not 5 minutes. Yeah, and if you have a pool next door, go for it. Thank you, and see you in a moment.
Okay. Welcome back.
So, as Stefan said, welcome back. Please turn on your computers again, your cameras, etc., and especially, of course, your attention. Thank you for coming back. Maybe we give it another minute and then we will go for the different groups. I'd like to present the groups shortly to you, and maybe the people who lead them can say hello. Because I just see that we forgot to add the names, I'm sorry. So we will have 5 breakout rooms, 5 exchange groups as we call them. Engaging with urban life, what does it really mean, and what are really the experiences that we all have, challenges, where do things go right, where do they go wrong, and what can we learn from each other. So the 5 groups, let me just present them quickly. You'll see them on the slide. The first group deals with ecological analysis for urban transformation. This is about life cycle assessments, and it's going to be led by our Syncity colleague René Kollmann from Strateco. René, please just say hi.
Hello, everybody, and I hope to welcome you in my session.
Thank you. The second group is called Urbodrom, which is a game that was developed in the frame of the Syncity project, at least partly, and also played in the context of the Syncity project, a participatory game. Gamification as a method for urban change, and it's going to be led by Laura Lohmann and Charlotte Fleischmann. Please say hi.
Hi.
Thanks. The third group is called Neighborhood Tales and Encouraging Apps. Syncity dealt with digital tools and also developed some digital tools. We were constantly asking ourselves, how can we kind of work both with physical tools and being there and physical presence, including a bicycle that we changed and that was going around in Cureghem and so on, with the digital world. My colleague Thomas Stollenberg from Occupants is going to lead this group. Thomas, please.
Hi, everybody. Happy to see you in the room.
So this is the digital part. Then Richard and Basile together are going to present the new tools that we developed in Syncity for stakeholder engagement. We know that stakeholder engagement is a terrible word somehow, because it kind of many people struggle with this, and it's difficult, of course, to combine different groups of people, to work with different people, especially in such a setting as Cureghem, an arrival area. But in general, as we all know, dealing with participation needs decent stakeholder work, and that often can be quite dry or difficult, or we try to develop an approach that is a bit more systematic and also more fun maybe, and challenging. Richard and Basile will present this and lead this group.
Hi everybody. Hi.
Thank you. And the last group is called Scenario Making for Collaborative Solutions. You remember Christian presented this waste issue in Chaussée de Mons that we were dealing with in Syncity. And he actually dealt together with colleagues with this question: how can you develop a participative scenario with people of different groups for kind of how does it work to develop such scenarios and to discuss them in a participatory workshop. So this is Andrea's group. Andrea, please say hi.
Hello.
Merci. Good. So we'd like to invite you to choose your session and enter the breakout rooms. And Stefan is gonna, in case you don't know how to do that, Stefan is gonna tell you in a second. For the group moderators and leaders, please make sure you are back at 5:45 to the plenary. And for everybody else, we meet again at 5:45 all together in the normal Zoom meeting for some learnings and a short conclusion.
Ina.
Yeah.
Ina, sorry, I have a question. Shall we take notes?
Yes, please. The presenters, please take notes.
Okay.
And you will be invited to present at least 2 learnings, if possible, from the discussion in the working groups.
So there's a first part in which I will, or the presenter will explain and present the work of Syncity.
Yeah.
For how long? You imagine 5 to 10 minutes.
Well, we have 5 to 10 minutes max.
And then collect input. Okay.
And we meet again at 5:45 in the plenary. The idea of these groups is really to exchange experiences and to bring our knowledge together. We have a lot of great participants. Thank you so much for joining the groups, because I think this will be a very fruitful moment for exchange, and let's inspire each other. We all have experiences. Let's bring them together. I wish you a good moment, and I hand over to Stefan for the question of how to get into these rooms, in case you don't know. See you at 5:45. I'm going to be walking around in the groups, by the way. See you later.
All right. Thank you, Ina. So it's very straightforward. We are going to give you the option to choose a group. The groups are named group 1, 2, 3, 4, which 5, yeah, and so on is what I was gonna say. And group 1 would be the ecological analysis, group 2 the urban, group 3 the neighborhood tales, and so on. And just click on the breakout session you want to join, and yeah, take it from there. All right, I will initiate them. Oh, wait. Okay. Okay, did everybody choose their session?
Maybe someone is still sharing their screen?
Ah, yes, I am. Wait, can you see it now?
Sorry, we tested it beforehand and it worked. We're gonna find out what to do. Just a second.
I've seen it for a while, but then disappeared.
Can you see something now? Ah.
Andrea, yes. Thomas, no.
I see people vanishing from the participant board.
So you need to click on breakout session on the bar, the menu bar. This is the way we did it.
Yeah. Yeah, so please press the breakout session icon on the menu bar to join.
Has everybody found it? On the bar down there, you have a place called breakout session. If you click on it with your mouse, you have the different rooms, and you can just say enter to the room that you want to enter. Can you all see it? If somebody cannot see it, please give us a sign or just say something or put it in the chat, because we cannot see all of you at the same time. Ach so, bei den Räumen stehen die Namen nicht dabei, das ist natürlich blöd. Kann man das noch ändern? Nein. Weißt, weil woher sollen die Leute jetzt wissen?
Das habe ich davor gesagt. Warum meinst du das?
Ja, aber das merkst du ja nicht. Kann man das noch dazu schreiben? Nein, okay. Okay, we say it one more time. Room 1 is ecological analysis for urban transformation, life cycle assessment. Room 2 is Urbodrome, gamification as a method for urban change. Room 3, neighborhood tales and encouraging apps. It's about digital tools. Room 4 is tools for stakeholder engagement. And room 5 is scenario making for collaborative solutions.
How do you choose?
Dig down there in the bar, you have an icon with 4 little squares, and it says breakout session.
Yes, I have that.
On my screen, it's on the right-hand side down in this bar, all the way down. It says something like participants, chat.
I see that.
Recording and so on. And on the right-hand side, it says breakout sessions. Can you see it?
Yes.
Now click on the breakout session icon. Just click on it directly. Does it show you the different groups?
Yes. How do you choose the group?
You just choose where you click enter is the group where you go. You see, for me it's blue. So which one would you like to join?
1.
Sorry?
1.
Where René's group. So just click on, in German it says beitreten, in English I guess it's, yes. In English I think it says join or enter. Can you see it? Yes, you're there. Good. Okay, enjoy.
Hello. I'm very sorry. I missed the last 5 minutes. Can I still join group 2?
Yeah, of course. I can put you into the group, all right?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
No worries. You need to accept the invitation, by the way. Yeah.
Okay, is it just us again now? Or others? Okay, so we can continue the discussion. But it was 5:45, wasn't it? So that was an issue during the whole Syncity project, being always late. Anyhow, would like anyone to say something more within my session now here? Or maybe a technical issue, then a question to Ina. Is that the right room for everyone now again? But it should be.
Hello, everybody. Just checking if there's still people discussing in the groups. Just a second, please. Okay, just waiting for a moment for room number 4. Yeah. Everybody is back. Thank you and sorry for some small technical issues and for the fact that we lost a bit of time just beforehand and had to cut a bit. This is also, of course, a lesson for us. I think it would have been good to have more time for exchange. Sorry, next time we will do it better. And also sorry, Thomas, that the slide didn't work in your group. It worked in all the others, and then I really don't know why. But also this will hopefully work better next time. Thank you very much for exchange. I would like to take us all into the last part, which is a very short wrap-up, please, from the group moderators or session people. Do you take, I know it was very short, but still, if you want to mention something that you're taking home, some learning from the short discussion in the groups, please mention it now, as this would be the moment to collect it. Just speak out, please. Just go ahead.
I can just mention that one of the main concerns again in our group about scenario making was time and the need to take time to build this kind of experience and the difficulties to reach all concerned stakeholders. So maybe it's again just a matter of the challenges that are behind these approaches that can in the practice often. Those are the questions that I've received from the room I was.
So time is an issue, and scenario making, as we also know from Syncity, it just takes time. And if you are not ready to face this challenge, you will not be able to develop scenarios, I believe. So it's one of the conditions.
Yeah.
We think that a Syncity process takes about 1.5 years at least to really make sense. Yeah. And René, would you like to say something about?
Yes, the main finding from the ecological assessment group was that the awareness rising and creating this knowledge is extremely important, and also sharing it and creating open access tools and knowledge, and yeah, trying to also include the students and make it public via internet. Even if someone doesn't know, can Google it and find it. So that was the main idea of our discussion.
So a plaidoyer for more sharing of knowledge between experts and other people on ecological assessment methods and how you can do them at all, I guess, and what you need to be able to do them for an urban situation, right?
And creating an open access,
Thank you, René. Laura and Charlie, would you like to share 1 or 2 thoughts with us from your group, please?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it was really interesting, maybe a little bit short in time, but the first thing, what was really nice was to experience how there's like what artifacts, what role artifacts play in methods for participation, as our group was famous as a method. And also what we took away as a thought was how different the circumstances of people and places are, and that a method for participation should really adopt the differences of these circumstances, and that gamification and also Urban as a method is really adaptive, and this is really a positive, maybe the most positive aspect of it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So gamification is adaptive, and that is very important. A game like Urban can be adapted quite easily to different circumstances and different contexts, and that is really very helpful to respond to a specific situation and to be able to reach specific people in a real place, right? Thank you very much. Thomas, I ask you to tell us something about the group on digital tools and apps.
Sure. Well, there's not a real key takeaway, but what we figured in a rather small group is that there is a growing need, or let's say a demand for tools which enable participation in digital ways. That is due to the fact that the mobility within societies has risen, and that well, the relations between cities and quarters and the people who sort of use them as dwellers, but also as workers, have changed, and that you can really use digital tools to create some sort of legitimacy for political participation processes. But then in the end, it comes to, how to put this, basically data protection and privacy issues when you apply those tools. Yeah, I think those were the 2 key findings of the group.
Okay, thanks very much. So somehow on the one hand side, legitimacy can be raised through digital tools, legitimacy of people who maybe don't have automatic legitimacy, let's say, as a citizen maybe, right? Yeah, and on the other hand, this question, this super difficult question of data protection and privacy. Thanks very much, Richard. And Basil, would you please share your thoughts from your group?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Ina. In our group, to be honest, we were a little bit running short also time-wise, but nevertheless, there were some very interesting points that came up. One was to combine or to further develop the stakeholder tools that we have by adopting them or by further extending them towards sociological research, quantitative sociological research, testing the categories that we have maybe and our assumptions in a more systematic way. And then, Basil, there was...
Yeah, and the other one was also that the tools was interesting, but we should also furthermore explore how to move the stakeholders from, for example, a fluctuating interest into a more permanent way. And these strategies have to be more research.
Okay, thank you. This is about these tools that Syncity developed, also for the others maybe to share. One is a tool called Commoning Matrix, where you can try to see where the people you're working with, on like the residents, the different groups of people, if you're working in a specific context, how close are they to a possibility of creating urban commons in some way? How much can they engage with the site at all? And can you help some stakeholder groups to engage more with a certain site, and how can you do that? So it's one thing, it's one thing to analyze your stakeholders, but it's another, or the groups you want to work with, and to understand who they are. This is step one. But step two would be to kind of mobilize and to activate and to support the landscape of stakeholders, so that people become, that all different stakeholder groups become more aware of common interests and in general of commons, shared commons for a sustainable city and a just city, right? Is this the direction? Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry for the short time in the groups. We come to the end. I think I wanted to summarize some learnings from Syncity that I thought. Can you go back, please, Stefan? Sorry. There is 3 or 4 points that I wanted to add to these ideas of the group. So one learning from Syncity is that we need to think from the idea of co-design to co-governance, and that there is a lot of discussion right now out there how this co-governance could look like. So how can citizens and municipalities actually share a place in some way, or share responsibility? There is some pros and some cons, and I think that this is a very interesting debate that we should all kind of follow at the moment, this question of co-governance. Where does it lead us to? An openness towards results was for Syncity really important, and I think it will help other projects too, not to have too many predefined ideas in mind, and to really keep this openness and find funding agencies that are ready to help support such projects that are not so predefined, which is difficult. Being able to listen to a site is related to it. What is the site telling, and what is really the let's say underlying needs, or the underlying potential of a site seen from the different perspectives of the different groups of users. And the last part is obviously that a participatory budget is a very interesting tool to support such processes, and to make sure that urban planning becomes more open and less directive, and a good way from our point of view. We couldn't try it in Syncity, but we think it is an interesting part of this whole debate. That is a summary from my side. I would like to take you to the last slide. Our toolbox, and we're very happy that we have it now. It's available now. There is an online version through this link that you can see here, but you can also just use the QR code right now, if you like, to access all the parts of the toolbox for free, of course. The print copy has a price, but the digital version is open access. And we also want to say that we are very happy to offer any kind of support. If somebody is interested, just contact us, in this case maybe Richard, who will then share the information with the Syncity team. And just because I'm a very physical person, this is the real toolbox. Richard was talking about the method part. This is the handbook. And here you find 11 cards, or you find them online, of course, with new methods that we developed in Syncity, such as the Obodrom game for engaging with a neighborhood in an arrival area. And they're really practical. They tell you on one page, what do you need for this method, how to apply it, how much money do you need for it, and so on. So we would be very happy if this maybe supports your own work. And through the QR code or through this stick here, you also find the sustainability check tool that we presented in the beginning, and a lot of other ideas on how you can work with different groups of people. We try to keep it really practical, moving from a research project to a practical approach. And we really hope that you can use it in the future for your own work, and that it might inspire your own work. In the end, I would like to say thank you, and we will share and send out this presentation to the people who have registered. If you do not want to receive it, and if you do not want to receive any news from Syncity, please just put a no into the chat. No reaction would mean agreement, if that's okay for you. So if you want to receive the links and the presentation, you don't have to do anything. You will just receive it by email in the next days. Yeah, so this is already the moment to say goodbye. Thank you very much for coming. We're very happy that you joined us. And here's the Syncity team, but there is also Stefan, who is not on this picture. Thanks a lot, Stefan, for helping us prepare. Thanks to all the presenters. Thank you for participating, and let's keep in touch with more projects and more debates. We also probably organize some deeper debate for September, and we will invite you to it so that we can maybe go a bit deeper into the topics that we presented today. So have a great evening, and bye from my side to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao. Cheers.
Bye. Thanks.
Hello, Mark. How are you? I don't want to leave.
Yeah, das ist aus, was?
What?
Yeah, it's a little bit a sad moment, unfortunately. So we don't want to leave because it's a sad moment. It's the end. It's the end of the conference. It's the end of the project. But it's not the end of the day, yeah?
No, let's go have dinner. Mark is on the phone. Mark doesn't want to talk to us. Yeah. So, everybody fine? Great. Oops. Sorry.
Okay, na, muss los.
Okay, bon voyage. Gute Reise, gute Impfung. Stefan zischt ab zu seiner ersten Impfung. Ihr könnt euch nicht vorstellen, wie heiß es hier ist. Ihr könnt euch das nicht vorstellen. Wirklich, wir sind gebadet. Das ist unglaublich. Und ich habe eigentlich keine anderen Anziehsachen mit, aber ist ja egal. Okay, also das heißt, wir gehen jetzt essen. Kommt ihr mich abholen? Kommt ihr uns abholen? Mit dem redest du? Mit dem Christian. Marc, you're still in our session. Hello. Hi. Hi, Marc. Turn on your phone. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, fine. How are you?
It's nice to see you.
Hey, yeah. Sorry, I was. It's so busy time, and
I know
this guy phones me like 10 times a day, and I don't know what to do with him. So he's Italian, by the way. So.
Okay. Yeah, alles klar. How are you doing? All right.
Yeah, very busy, very busy. And you guys?
Yeah, the same. Yeah.
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 I wanted to ask something at the end, but I was like distracted. Where can we order the book, the tool?
You can either ask us or you can order it directly at the publishing house.
Okay.
Which is easier because then we don't have to pay for the shipping, but they have to pay for the shipping. I post you the, wait a sec, I'll post you the link into the chat. If I find it, just a second.
Did you already hear something from GPI or?
No.
No? They were like telling us in the beginning of June, but.
Yes, obviously this is not working. You know, it's often like this. Huh? So I think that Corona really kind of brought a lot of, you know, many of these things are like too late and so on.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, but well. So are you going to buy one toolbox? That's great.
I don't know how expensive it is, but
very expensive. No, but you know what? Let's. I will send you one. Forget it.
Okay. It's I liked the presentation. It was a pity that the discussions were so short.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
So it's always like this, huh? So
yeah, it's a pity. I mean, you know, I think it's not so easy with this digital stuff to.
No, it's terrible. Yeah.
Because if the digital working groups are too long, then you know, in some groups there's less, and in some groups there's more discussion, and then how do you bring it all together? I don't know. I find it. If it was face to face, we would have done it in a different way, but it's not so easy. Maybe in September we can all travel and meet. That would be so nice.
Yeah, it's totally different than this digital surrogates.
Yeah.
But you have to, you have to.
Yeah. How is Ed?
Yeah, he's okay. He has a little bit hassle with his daughter, but so it's busy for him. But yeah, we have a lot of new projects too. Like we told to each other we're gonna take it easy in the summer, but it's totally the opposite. Yeah, and yeah, I hope this arrival city will come, and
it would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, especially for also the hogeschool. But yeah, if we can go to the second phase, we still have to deal with a lot of stuff, the formalities. It's because this guy, this linking pin of the Dutch agency, I phoned him like 15 times, and in the end he said, "Oh, I didn't know either." So it was I almost killed him. So
yeah, I don't know. Let's see. But it would be great, wouldn't it be great? I think it would be very nice to.
Yeah, I think it's a good proposal. So.
Let's see. I mean, if we go into the second stage, actually, I'm gonna, you know what, we're gonna call the FFK tomorrow and ask if they have some news. And if we go into the second stage, it's a lot of work in August to be done. But well, whatever. We will manage somehow. Let's see.
You already planned your holiday.
Of course. I will be on the beach in Greece while you are writing the proposal. but no problem. I can write a proposal on the beach in Greece. It's not a problem. Yeah, I'm not.
I'll also
no.
be on the beach at that time.
What?
I will also be on the beach, so I don't know who writes.
Never mind. Somebody will write it. It's gonna work. Some fairies.
You already had your vaccine, your vaccination?
Yes. Did you?
Only one. I needed the second one.
Me too. The second one is coming in 2 weeks, I think. And you?
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. See. So I think in September we could meet.
Yeah.
Let's see. Not good. Okay, I'm getting out of here because this place is like a sauna, you know. We have a construction site just outside, and they started today with huge noise. And of course, we don't have an air condition because we're sustainability people and we cannot have an air condition. But I tell you, I'm sitting here I think inside here it has 36 degrees. I swear, we are like dying here.
You have to come to Holland. It's 15 degrees here. So.
Nah, really? Oh, I'm coming. It's really crazy. I have never had a dripping moderation. Stefan also, he was like, it's really crazy. So okay, I'm getting out of it. It was nice to see you. So let's see. Yeah, we're gonna ask tomorrow. As soon as we have news, we will send it out, and hopefully it's good news.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Hey, have a nice evening, and thanks for coming. Ciao.
Ciao.